A lot of people hate this book. They think it's evil, a book for psychopaths. It's been banned in schools, libraries, and even prisons because authorities feared that it could be used to manipulate the guards. At its core, it's a supervillain handbook. It's a book about power and how you can gain or keep it. It's a Bible for psychopaths, oligarchs, and kings. But I still think you should read it. The 48 Laws of Power is a guidebook for playing the game of power, which is this invisible game that people play in order to advance their interests. But the kind of power discussed here has nothing to do with strength. That's a different kind of power. In the book, power is the ability to influence the way other people think and act. People who play the game of power are called power players. They use the people around them like pawns on a chessboard to achieve personal gain. Like the conman who convinced entire cities that he had healing powers, or the ancient Chinese emperors who preserved power through political maneuvering, or the ancient Egyptian pharaohs who made themselves seem godlike. It's the art of war, except instead of being a guidebook for warfare, it's a guidebook for power. But wait, you're probably thinking, why should any of this matter to you? You're probably not planning on taking over the world anytime soon. If anything, reading this book might just confuse you. And yeah, that's why some people have said not to read the book at all. The cover is blood red and the writing is pretentious. It says to crush your enemy totally, and to learn to keep people dependent on you. It teaches you to put your humanity aside in the pursuit for power. It's manipulative, unethical, and cutthroat, all sorts of messed up. And that's why some people don't like it. But the thing about this book is that it's incredibly helpful in real life. Because if you look past all the supervillain crap, what it's ultimately about is navigating power dynamics. Power dynamics is the balance of power between two or more people. And these power dynamics exist everywhere. The school, the workplace, and even in your personal relationships. And what this book does is help teach you how to understand and navigate those power dynamics. Maybe your friends don't listen to you, or your team members don't ask for your advice, or maybe your significant other walks all over you. Because we've all been there at some point in our lives, having been somebody else's doormat. And the reason why I think you should read this book is because it teaches you how not to be a doormat. It teaches you how power players think. Because if you approach this book defensively, it can help you protect yourself and others from manipulation. Choosing not to read a book like this keeps you ignorant about how power works and makes you a prime target for power players. Now, chances are you're not always wrestling with power dynamics. For a lot of people, life is pretty chill, but these power dynamics become much more obvious in stressful situations where people have to work together to get things done. The first law in the book is called Never Outshine the Master, and it basically says to respect power dynamics if you want to thrive. It's one of the more defensive laws of power, and there's a cool movie where this law applies. It's called Triangle of Sadness, where, spoilers, a wrecked luxury cruise ship leaves survivors stranded on an island. These people, a mix of uber-rich passengers, staff managers, and cleaning staff, have to work together to survive. But as you can expect, the power dynamics quickly shift. The concept of wealth disappears, and power shifts to the only person who has actual survival skills, a Filipino cleaning lady named Abigail. Having had a less privileged upbringing, she was the only person who knew how to find food for the group. This simple skill elevates her role from disposable cleaning lady to captain of the group. The status quo flips. As captain, she keeps a chokehold on the group, and anybody who challenges or attempts to outshine her gets put in their place. You have to respect the power dynamic so you can thrive. That's just one example of a law of power being helpful in real life. And there is no shortage of these types of situations in business, corporate, or even in the family. So however weird or unrelatable the examples in this book may be, it's still pretty helpful. I think a lot of the criticism that this book gets is from the assumption that readers will take the teachings of the book to an extreme and apply them to every aspect of their lives. Like they'll just drop their moral compass because they read a book. But that's just so unlikely. People are more complex than that. For a lot of people, this probably isn't going to be the book that causes them to abandon their moral compass. But yeah, there are instances where you're probably better off not reading the book, like if you're dealing with emotional trauma. Because how you were brought up affects the way that you use the teachings in this book. It's just like learning martial arts, which teaches you how to protect yourself. If you don't know how to deal with your emotions, you might just use it to hurt somebody else. But if you do have your emotions in check, you can use it to instead protect yourself and others. The 48 Laws of Power is the same way. By reading it, you can learn how to manipulate and deceive, but you can also use it to protect yourself and others from people who want to take advantage. So before you read this book, you do need to understand that kindness does exist, and not everybody deserves to have this book used against them. But I think this book is essential. We all need to learn how to navigate power dynamics because they can be anywhere. When people are granted positions of authority, something changes in their brain. They can become less empathetic and a bit too willing to commit cruelty in the name of the greater good. Like in the Stanford prison experiment of 1971, college students were assigned roles as prisoners or guards in a simulated prison. The experiment intended to examine the effects of power on human behavior, but quickly became abusive. The guards had been briefed beforehand and told that their role was to instill fear and helplessness in the prisoners. So on just the second day, the prisoners rebelled by blocking cell doors with cots and defying orders. In response, the guards used fire extinguishers to regain control. Within the first 4 days, 3 prisoners had become so traumatized that they had to be released. It got really bad, and that's because of how careless the scientists were. They did absolutely everything wrong and showed complete disregard for the people and their mental well-being. It was not an experiment. In fact, it was a prime example of how not to do an experiment. But there is one takeaway from all this. Some institutions demand sadism and tyranny, and some people are just too okay with doing that, especially if they think they're doing it for the greater good. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where a person like that holds power over you, you need to know how power works so you can tip the scales in your favor. And a book like this can help with that. But this book isn't the answer to everything. I think it's just a tool that everybody needs to have. Because when you're out in the jungle, yes, you do need food, water, and shelter. But no matter how you spin it, you're also going to need a knife. And I think that's the perfect analogy for a book like this. The 48 Laws of Power is a knife. It can be used for harm, but it's also essential. It's a book that gives you a chance to fight in a world that sometimes just doesn't care what you want. Hey, if you like that, please like and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you next time.